Welcome to Shadowed Tales Archive, a place where forgotten stories breathe again, where whispers crawl from the cracks of reality, and fear finds a voice. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen closely, because some tales were never meant to be told. Tonight's story is titled, Whispers in the White Silence. Let the shadows speak.
Part 1. The Icebound Descent. No one had really wanted to come to Alaska. Sure, the company had spun it with all the usual buzzwords: disconnection to reconnect, embracing adversity, shared discomfort for stronger synergy. But you couldn't dress up sub-zero temperatures and a mountain full of wolves with a PowerPoint. Still, here they were. 8 members of Variction Technologies stood in the icy hush of the Alaskan tundra, their breath coming in short, visible bursts. What was meant to be a 3-day leadership retreat had taken them deep into the Wrangell St. Elias Mountains, far beyond the reach of cell towers and human contact. Wesley Crane, the company's relentlessly enthusiastic founder, was already unloading gear from the snowmobiles with the manic energy of a camp counselor on meth. Come on, team. Fresh air. Real bonding. This is how we grow. Beside him, Rin Monroe adjusted her jacket hood and muttered to herself, "Grow frostbite, maybe?" She was head of operations and already regretting every decision that led her here. Born and raised in LA, the closest she liked to get to snow was on a holiday screensaver. Next to her, Vince Tran, a wiry systems architect with a sardonic streak, looked around and said, "You know what would build even better synergy? A damn heated lodge." Rin smirked but said nothing. There was no point fighting it. Crane had dragged them all here. Vince, herself, Nicole from HR, 2 interns named Blake and Sadie, and an aging finance guy named Marshall who hadn't stopped shaking since they landed. They were divided into 2 teams, red and blue, given compass coordinates for check-in waypoints, and told they'd be hiking and camping their way to the summit over 3 days. Every 5 miles, a flag, a lesson, and some trust activity. In other words, misery with bullet points. Still, the views were majestic. Endless white landscapes stretched under a slate sky. Pine trees towered like sentries, and a pale sun offered no warmth. It might have been beautiful, if not for the bone-deep cold, the endless crunch of snow, and the creeping sense of isolation that made Rin constantly glance over her shoulder. By midday, they'd reached their second checkpoint. Crane was delivering an impromptu speech about embracing discomfort as the birthplace of innovation, when Vince interrupted. "Hey, anyone else notice the sky getting darker way too fast?" They all looked up. A gray curtain of clouds had rolled in, almost too quickly, swallowing what little sunlight there was. The wind picked up, subtle at first, then whistling. Crane clapped his gloved hands. "That's just mountain weather. No biggie. We're ahead of schedule." Rin stepped toward him. "Did you check updated forecasts? This doesn't look like light flurries." "I checked last night. Clear as a whistle." Nicole frowned. "Whistles aren't clear. That metaphor makes no sense." But no one laughed. The wind had teeth now. By the time they made camp, the sky was bruised and roiling, and snow had begun falling in heavy sheets. They pitched their tents in silence, hands frozen, faces raw. Rin and Sadie shared one, while Vince paired with Blake. Crane insisted on sleeping outside to embrace the full experience. He was the only one smiling. That night, huddled in the tent, Rin felt something she couldn't name, not just unease but an undercurrent of watching, listening, like the mountain itself was waiting for something. Sadie whispered beside her, "Do you hear that?" Rin froze. "What?" Sadie leaned up. It sounded like a voice, far off, not like wind. It said something. Rin wanted to dismiss it, but she'd heard it too. Not words, not exactly, but something threaded in the wind. A sound that didn't belong to the storm. Something that breathed. By morning, 2 tents were half buried. Crane was gone. His sleeping bag lay in the snow, torn open like a chrysalis. Tracks led away into the trees, but not human ones. They were too deep, with claw-like imprints, and they didn't sink into the snow the way theirs did. They just floated, pressing only the surface like whatever made them weighed nothing at all. Panic didn't come instantly. It crept. Nicole kept insisting he'd gone to scout ahead. Marshall stayed mute, shaking harder. But as the storm worsened and visibility dropped to near zero, Vince said what no one wanted to hear. "We need to go back." Ren nodded. "We follow the path down." But the path was gone. Every flag, every waypoint, every trail vanished beneath a white silence that swallowed everything. Blake tried the satellite phone. Nothing. Not even static. That night, they rationed trail mix and melted snow to drink. They took turns sleeping. Ren didn't. She stared into the dark, listening to that same sound in the wind. Whispers. Whispers that were learning her name. Part 2. Footprints that don't sink. By the third day, they'd stopped pretending things were normal. Crane hadn't returned. His gear was untouched. And whatever had left those claw-like tracks in the snow hadn't come back. At least not in any way they could prove. But the silence felt heavier now. Thicker. Like the air had weight. The blizzard raged all night. By morning, the tents had collapsed under the weight of the snow, and Nicole's fingers were turning gray at the tips. Ren noticed first. "You've got frostbite," she said. "We need to get your gloves off." "No," Nicole snapped. "I'm fine. Just cold." "You're not fine," Vince said, kneeling beside her. "Your fingertips look like dried raisins." Sadie, the youngest of them, had already begun crying. Blake stood nearby, arms crossed, his lips nearly blue. Marshall sat by himself against a snow-packed boulder, rocking slowly. They had no fire, no shelter, and no direction. "We can't wait here," Ren said, voice hoarse from cold. "If we do, we die." Vince looked up. "Then we follow the ridge. It drops lower. Maybe leads to a ranger station or service road." Blake stepped forward. "I saw a shadow last night." Everyone turned to him. "I don't know what it was," he went on. "Tall. Too tall. And it didn't walk, it kind of glided. I thought maybe it was Crane, but it didn't have a face." "No," Nicole said, shaking her head. Don't start that shit." "I'm serious," Blake said. "I didn't sleep after that. I saw it standing at the edge of the trees for a while. Then it walked off, left more of those prints." Vince exhaled sharply and grabbed his pack. "Cool. Well, I'm not staying here with frostbite and ghost stories. Let's move." They followed the ridge in silence, shuffling through waist-deep snow. For a while, they walked in 2 single-file lines. Then the snow got deeper and the lines broke. Then they stopped talking altogether. The world was only wind and breath and crunching. Ren tried to keep count of her steps. 40, then break. 40 more. Rest. Repeat. But time felt bent. Hours stretched. The sun never rose, not properly. Just a dim smear behind endless gray clouds. The horizon was lost in all directions. They came upon the tracks just past a frozen gulch. Deep imprints, long and narrow. They sank into the snow only slightly, like they were pressed from above instead of stepped into. No boot tread, no toe definition. Just smooth depressions. More like claws had skimmed the snow surface. "Same ones as before," Blake whispered. Vince crouched beside one and touched the edge. "They're warm." Ren blinked. "What?" "Feel it?" He moved aside. She pressed her hand to the snow where the print dipped. He was right. It wasn't hot, but it wasn't as cold as the surrounding snow. The temperature was wrong. Something passed through here recently, Vince muttered. But it's not melting. It's like the snow bent around it. Blake leaned closer. And look. At the end of each track, faint claw marks dug through the snow in symmetrical lines, 4 slashes curving slightly outward. Mountain lion? Sadie guessed. No, Rin stood shaking her head. That's not how cats walk. These are longer, more upright. They followed the trail. Not because they wanted to, but because at that point, any sign of motion meant the possibility of warmth, of life, of someone who knew where the hell they were. The trail led through a grove of evergreens whose branches drooped under heavy snow. The deeper they walked, the quieter it became. Even the wind died down like the trees absorbed all sound. Eventually they reached a clearing. At its center stood a cabin. It wasn't on any map they had. It looked too old to still be standing. The roof sagged in the middle, heavy with snow. Smoke trickled faintly from a thin metal chimney. No visible light in the windows. No footprints nearby, only those strange, shallow tracks leading right up to the front door. Hell no, Nicole said under her breath. Rin approached cautiously. The closer she got, the more she noticed the details. Bones hung from the eaves, antlers, bird skulls, something vaguely human-shaped dangling from string like a mobile. Claw marks raked across the frame of the door. 3 deep, clean gouges. Not random, almost like a symbol. She knocked. Nothing. She tried the handle. It creaked open. Warm air hit her in the face like breath. The smell inside was wrong. Not rotten exactly. More like wet fur and burnt wood and something sweet, almost sugary, clinging to the walls. Ren turned back to the others. It's warm. Vince stepped up beside her. We can't stay out here. We'll freeze. Sadie whimpered. Blake whispered, this is a trap. Yeah, Vince said. Then we die baited or we die frozen. Inside, the cabin was dim but surprisingly clean. Dust on some surfaces, but the hearth glowed with red coals. A pot hung over it, something thick and bubbling inside. Nicole stayed near the door. I'm not sitting down. I'll take first watch, Rin said. Everyone else warm up, but keep your gear on. They didn't sleep. They just sat by the fire, letting their limbs thaw, eyes darting to the dark corners of the room. There were no signs of recent human habitation. No beds, no photos, no clutter. Just a single wooden chair near the hearth, an iron hook on the wall, and a stack of fur-lined coats in the corner. No sound, no wind, just the gentle pop of wood burning. Then they heard it, a creak from under the floorboards. Faint, rhythmic, like breathing. Part 3. Something beneath. The breathing sound beneath the floor didn't stop. It came in slow, wet exhalations, not quite human, not quite animal. Like a deep lung expanding in the darkness below the boards, tasting the air that didn't belong to it. Rin held up her hand. Everyone froze. The cabin's fire crackled softly, casting twitching shadows against the log walls. Tell me you all heard that, Vince whispered. No one answered. Rin stepped toward the center of the room. The wooden floor beneath her boots groaned slightly, but the rhythm underneath was still there. Inhale, exhale, as if the cabin itself were drawing breath. She knelt beside the hearth and placed her palm flat on the floor. It was warm, too warm, radiating up like there was something alive down there. Not a furnace, not a crawl space, something bigger. There's something under us, she said softly. Like a cellar? Nicole asked, standing rigid by the door, hands clenched in her parka sleeves. There's no trapdoor, Rin replied. No hatch. And this isn't insulation heat. Vince crouched beside her. Could be geothermal? A vent? Maybe. But she didn't believe that. And neither did he. Sadie took a step back. Her lip quivered. Can we leave now? No one's going anywhere tonight, said Marshall suddenly. His voice sounded different. Flat. Almost tranquil. You saw what it's like out there. The wind will kill us before the cold does. Ren turned. We shouldn't have come in here. You're the one who opened the door, Nicole snapped. And you walked through it, Ren snapped back. The argument died quickly. No one had energy to fight. Not anymore. They sat in silence. Eventually, Vince ladled the stew from the hanging pot into tin bowls. No one had seen him do it. One moment he was sitting, the next he was stirring. Steam coiled up from the bowls. The smell was savory, salty. Meat and roots, maybe. But the color was wrong, a shade too dark, like old rust. Vince passed the first bowl to Sadie. She took it with trembling hands but didn't lift the spoon. Ren sniffed hers. The scent was almost appealing, but a note of something metallic hung just beneath it, like old coins and blood. She looked at Vince. Did you see what was in it? He didn't answer. Vince, I don't know, he murmured, but it smells good. Sadie dipped her spoon in, hesitated. Don't, Ren said firmly. I'm starving, Sadie replied. Her voice cracked. We all are, Ren said. But that doesn't mean we eat what we don't understand. Marshall stood. He didn't take a bowl, just walked slowly to the wall with the coats and stared. Everyone watched. I think, he said after a while, that we've made a mistake. Nicole laughed bitterly. Welcome to the party. No, he said, turning around. Not just by coming here. I mean opening the door. Ren stood. Marshall, what are you talking about? He pointed at the stacked coats. They weren't coats. Not anymore. They were empty skins, fur-lined on the outside, but inside they were stretched, desiccated, hollowed out, as if whatever had worn them had stepped out. Jesus, Vince muttered. Nicole backed toward the door. One of the skins, the largest one, had a pair of hollow slits where the eyes should have been. A human jaw protruded beneath them, warped and stretched like it had been boiled. And suddenly Ren remembered something Blake had said 2 days earlier. Something brushed off his nerves. It didn't walk. It glided. The door slammed shut. Not the front one. The back. The one they hadn't noticed until now. A small, square door tucked into the far wall near the floor, behind a pile of split wood. It was no bigger than a crawlspace hatch and covered in clawed scratch marks. Now it was shut, but it hadn't been before. Ren moved slowly, eyes fixed on the door. What's back there? She whispered. Nicole shook her head. No. I'm not staying here. She lunged for the front door. Yanked it. It didn't budge. She pulled harder. The wood groaned but didn't move. The knob twisted but caught. Vince tried next. They both braced and threw their weight into it. Nothing. Frozen shut, he muttered. Or it doesn't want to open, Sadie whispered. Ren turned. Stop saying things like that. But you feel it, don't you? Sadie looked up, tears forming in her eyes. Something is in here with us. I felt it in the trees. I felt it before Crane disappeared. Ren approached her slowly. You're okay. No, I'm not. Sadie shook her head. You didn't see it watching us last night. Nicole pressed her back to the wall, breath coming fast. Okay, enough. We wait till morning. Someone will come looking. They have to. Vince returned to the fire. His bowl was empty. I think, he said, we should stay awake. No one sleeps. They all nodded. One by one they took shifts by the hearth. Rin sat across from Vince, her eyes locked on the small back door. It hadn't moved again, but the breathing had started up once more. This time louder, this time closer. Sadie began to sob. Hours passed, maybe. Time didn't mean much anymore. The fire shrank to embers. They didn't feed it. No one dared approach the pot again. Rin sat with her knees hugged to her chest, eyes fixed on the door. Vince hadn't spoken in nearly 20 minutes. When she turned to check on him, he was gone. His bowl lay on its side, the last smear of stew bleeding into the dust. No one had heard him move. Not a footstep, not a door, just gone. Nicole screamed. They searched the cabin, all 3 rooms. 2 closets, a pantry under the table. Nothing. Rin pressed her ear to the small door in the back wall. Silence. But the wood was warm. Too warm. Part 4. The hollow voice. Rin didn't sleep. None of them did. By now, the fire had reduced to an orange pulse in the stone hearth, barely enough to hold the shadows back. Every crack in the wall, every creak in the floor, seemed like a breath held just too long. Nicole sat huddled by the door, clutching a trekking pole like a spear. Her eyes darted to the small square hatch in the back wall every few seconds, then back to the front door, which still refused to open. Marshall hadn't spoken in hours. He sat near the stacked skins, his hands clasped, eyes closed, lips moving silently like he was praying or counting. Maybe both. Sadie had moved closer to Rin, trembling under 2 coats and whispering to herself. Rin wasn't sure what the girl was saying, but the rhythm of it reminded her of something old, something religious, or worse. And Vince was still gone. No footprints, no disturbed snow, just absence, as if he'd been pulled out of the world like a loose thread. At some point, Rin realized the stew pot was gone too. It hadn't been kicked over. It hadn't been emptied. It was simply not there anymore. Just like Vince. She didn't say anything about it. No one had the energy left to process more strangeness. Instead, she stared at the little hatch in the back wall. It hadn't opened again, but the scratches on the wood seemed deeper now, fresher. Sadie shifted beside her. "It talks," she whispered. Rin turned. "What?" "The voice," Sadie said. Her eyes were wide, pupils huge in the low light. "It talks when no one listens. It doesn't like the fire. That's why it waits." Rin swallowed. "What does it say?" Sadie tilted her head slowly. "It says we're already inside it. That this place, this cabin, is its mouth." Rin wanted to say that wasn't possible, but then she remembered the warmth in the floor, the breathing, the skin sacks in the corner, and the stew that had no ingredients but still boiled. That afternoon, if it was afternoon, the front door finally opened. No one touched it. It just creaked, slow and deliberate, letting in a blast of cold air and falling snow. They stood, unsure what to make of it. Beyond the threshold, the storm had died. The snow fell gently, almost peacefully. Trees stood in solemn stillness. And in the clearing beyond the tree line, something moved. It didn't walk. It drifted. A tall, fur-wrapped shape with long limbs and a head bent too low. It left no prints, no crunching, just glided across the snow like wind. Rin slammed the door shut. That night, Nicole broke. "I'm not staying in here," she said, her voice cracking. "You saw that thing. You saw it too. It's waiting for us to fall asleep." Rin stood in front of her. "Nicole, you can't go out there. That thing is." "I don't care," she shouted. "I'd rather die in the cold than wait for something to eat my skin from the inside out." She shoved past them and pulled the door open again. Outside, snow swirled like fog. Rin grabbed her sleeve. "Please." But Nicole jerked away. "I'm done." She stepped out into the whiteness and vanished. No scream, no sound, Not even footprints, just silence. An hour passed, maybe two. Marshall began to mutter again, this time louder. Rin could make out the words now. They worshipped it, he said, voice distant. The old ones, the ones who came before the tribes. They didn't have names for it, only symbols, plus circles, spirals. They said it could wear your memories, that it could speak in your own voice. Sadie's lip trembled. What is it? Marshall looked up, eyes glassy. They called it the Hollow. Rin sat down, her knees buckling. What does that mean? It doesn't live like we do, he said. It doesn't eat like we do. Becomes you, one at a time. It strips you down until you're just shape, skin, memory. Then it puts you on like a jacket and waits for more. Sadie whimpered. Is that what happened to Crane? Rin didn't answer. She already knew. That night the back door opened. They didn't hear it. They felt it, like a pressure drop in the room. A sudden stillness, like the walls held their breath. And then something stepped in. Not the figure from the clearing. Not entirely. It looked like Vince, but its arms were too long. Its legs bent wrong. And its eyes, no longer brown, glowed faintly yellow like coals in a dying fire. It didn't blink. It didn't speak. It just walked to the hearth and knelt, feeding the fire one log at a time. Sadie buried her face in Ren's coat. Don't look. Don't look. Marshall just closed his eyes. Ren reached for the trekking pole Nicole had left behind. The Vince thing turned toward her. Its jaw moved, but the words were delayed, like sound following lightning. Wearm is good. Its voice was too deep, too dry, like leaves breaking. Stay, and we'll keep you warm forever. Sadie sobbed. Ren stood, lifting the pole like a spear. Get out. The thing smiled, or tried to. Its lips peeled back too far, revealing teeth too flat and too many. No, it said. You came to me. It stepped forward. Ren swung the pole hard. It hit square against the creature's ribs and snapped in half like dried grass. The thing didn't flinch, didn't even blink. It looked down at the broken stick, then looked at her. You'll see, it whispered. You'll see what it's like to be empty. Then it stepped backward into the shadows behind the hearth and disappeared. After that, the fire wouldn't burn. No matter how much they stoked it, fed it, lit matches and scraps of fabric. The hearth had gone cold, and so had the floor. Rin sat with Sadie and Marshall in silence. None of them spoke, because now the breathing had stopped, and something else had begun. Not words, not language, but humming, from under the floorboards, from behind the walls. A lullaby with no melody, like something trying to remember what it felt like to be human. Part 5. What the fire cannot burn. The fire was dead. Cold radiated from the hearth now, not just absence of heat, but a kind of reversal. The stones frosted over with rime that crawled like veins, reaching out across the cabin floor. Within minutes, the temperature dropped to something that felt like deep space. Rin could see her breath in the dark, each exhale a sharp sting in her lungs. Sadie had gone quiet. Not asleep, not quite, but curled into herself like a dying animal, her eyes fluttering and lips moving with silent prayer. The same rhythm, the same nonsense syllables, as if something inside her had cracked open and let in the whispering. Marshall hadn't moved in a while. He still sat against the wall, his back to the coats, or what remained of them. Only one was left now, the biggest, and it was no longer empty. It pulsed, just slightly, like something inside it was breathing. Rin didn't speak. She couldn't. The cold had taken her voice, and the silence was heavier than before. Not empty, but full, with presence, with pressure. like being underwater in a frozen lake, the surface too far above to reach and something circling in the dark below. The humming hadn't stopped. It grew clearer now, closer to human. A woman's voice maybe, or a child's. But there were no words, just the shape of them drifting along the edges of sanity. Rin stood. Her legs trembled, but she managed to stay upright. Her fingers were numb, her vision blurry at the edges. She looked down at Sadie. "Sadie," she whispered, unsure if she even made a sound. Sadie didn't respond. Her eyes were open but blank. Rin touched her shoulder gently. Sadie turned her head slowly, then smiled. But it wasn't her smile. The expression didn't belong on her face. It was too wide, too sure. A predator's grin stretched across a girl who had cried in her arms just hours ago. "You're the last one," Sadie said. Her voice was wrong. Too low, too old. Rin backed away. "No," she whispered. Sadie stood. The coat behind her shivered. Marshall let out a soft gasp. Rin turned just in time to see his body slump. His eyes were open, but something was wrong with them. Like the pupils had drained out, leaving only pale film. His lips trembled, then stopped. The skin of his neck rippled, and something moved beneath it. Rin ran. She didn't think. She didn't plan. She just moved straight to the front door. She yanked the latch. Give. The door flew open into the dark. No snow now. No storm. Just a still black forest under a sky full of sickly green light. The aurora twisted into claw shapes that reached toward the earth like grasping fingers. Behind her, Sadie's voice rang out again, but not to her. It sang. A lullaby without music. A tune that wanted to be remembered. Rin stumbled into the snow. She ran. Branches tore at her coat. Her boots crunched through knee-high powder. The forest felt wrong, bent somehow, as if the trees had moved places when she wasn't looking. The snow was warm. She stopped, bent down, touched it. It melted around her glove but didn't soak through. No moisture, no resistance, just absence, like it wasn't snow at all. She stood again and kept running. Behind her, the cabin lights flickered to life, even though there was no electricity. Windows glowed red, and in the doorway something stepped out, tall, wrapped in patchwork skin. A face made of nothing but slits and stitches, bones and lips that moved without sound. The hollow. No more masked, no more need to pretend. It had found her name. Rin collapsed near the edge of the clearing, her legs giving out, her hands raw, lungs burning with cold and grief and exhaustion. This was it. No food, no fire. Everyone gone. Or worse, taken. Turned. Skin. And she was next. She pulled off her gloves, flexed her fingers, and laughed once. Not because it was funny, because there was nothing else left to do. And then she saw the tower. Far in the distance, through a break in the trees, a narrow spire of metal half buried in the snow. A ranger tower, the kind used for fire lookouts. She blinked. Once, twice. It didn't disappear. She got up. Her legs screamed in protest, but she moved. Each step was agony. But the thought of 4 walls and maybe a radio was more than enough. Behind her, the trees creaked. Something followed. But it didn't hurry. It had all the time in the world. She reached the base of the tower just as her body began to shut down. The door at the bottom was unlocked. She pulled it open and stepped inside. Darkness, but silence. No humming, no heat, but no presence either. She collapsed onto the wooden floor and lay still, too weak to cry. Then she saw the radio. Dusty, but real. She crawled, flicked the switch. Nothing. Then she slammed her fist against it. Static. Then a voice. Allo? Is someone out there? She blinked. Yes, she screamed. Please, this is Rin Monroe Direction Technologies. We've been stranded. People are missing. Something is... Calm down, the voice said. Where are you? North slope of Wrangell Range, she said. There's something here. In the snow. It's not human. Silence. Then. We know. Her breath caught. What? A different voice now. Not the first. Not human. You called us, it said. Then the light in the tower flickered, and the radio went dead. Part 6. The ones you left behind. The silence in the tower was suffocating. Rin sat huddled in the corner of the lookout, knees drawn tight to her chest. The only light came from the flickering emergency bulb hanging by a frayed wire overhead, dim, yellow, sickly. The floor beneath her was cold, but not freezing. She could feel the wind outside rattling the window panes, but inside the air was dead still. No humming, no breathing, no voice, not yet. But the radio was silent now, completely dead. Its switch wouldn't respond, not a spark of static. Her last connection to the outside world had vanished. She tried to think, to reason, to remember the order of events like stringing beads on a fraying thread. The retreat, the team, the snowstorm, Crane, Vince, Nicole, Marshall, Sadie, all of them, one by one, taken. No, not taken. Rewritten. Skin. One. A shape inside a shape. And now it was her. Alone. Or maybe not. She didn't remember falling asleep. Only that she woke to the sound of knocking. 3 slow knocks on the wooden tower door downstairs. Knock. 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 Then silence. Rin sat frozen. Then the knock came again. She stood slowly, every muscle tense, and stepped toward the window. Carefully, she peered down into the snow-covered clearing at the base of the tower. Nothing. No footprints. No shadows. Just the wind carving smooth trails through the white. She backed away from the window. The knocking started again. Only this time it wasn't coming from outside. It came from the floor beneath her feet. A slow, deep sound. Hollow. Like someone was inside the walls, knocking with bare knuckles on bone. The emergency light blinked. Once. Twice. Then it stayed off. She stood in the pitch black, and something began to speak. Not aloud. Not through the air. But inside her head, a low rumble that came in waves. It sounded like her mother. And then it sounded like Sadie. And then Crane. Like it was trying on voices, testing which one she'd believe most. Finally, it settled on her own. You should open the door, it said. Rin clutched her head, pressing her palms hard into her temples. You've always run, haven't you? It continued. Always looking for an escape. Even when they needed you. Images flashed. Not memories, not exactly. But close. A hotel room. Flickering lamp. Her sister crying on the phone. Please, Rin. I don't know what to do. Rin standing by the window holding her bag. Flight boarding in an hour. I can't be there right now, she'd said. I'm sorry. Click. The next day, her sister had tried to overdose. That had been years ago. She hadn't thought about it in forever. But now the guilt returned like a wave, and something fed on it. You leave people behind, the voice said, wearing her mouth. You always have. She staggered back and slammed her fist against the wall. This isn't real. But the voice didn't stop. You didn't say Vince. He trusted you. You let Sadie turn. You didn't stop her. You watched Marshall die. You watched them all. Rin fell to her knees, clutching the cold wooden floor. The pressure inside her skull mounted, not pain but invasion. Like something was trying to rewrite her. Erase the original. Install a better version. One more compliant. One more, empty. The wind outside picked up again, and this time it carried whispers. Oh, familiar. Soft as breath in her ear. She crawled to the far corner of the tower, reached up, and grabbed the flare gun mounted beside the supply locker. She didn't even remember seeing it earlier. Her hands trembled. She loaded a flare, pointed it at the ceiling, and fired. The room exploded in crimson light. Shadows screamed backward. For a second, just one, she saw the shape huddled in the other corner. It looked like her, but not. Its eyes were hollow, lips stretched too wide, and its skin writhed as if something underneath it was still settling into place. Then the light died, and it was gone. She breathed hard. The radio clicked. Static buzzed. A voice again, but not the hollow. Not a mimic. This was human. Monroe? Is this Ren Monroe? Please respond. She scrambled toward the table. Yes, I'm here. We received your ping. Satellite distress marker. We triangulated the beacon. Pause. You're not in the designated team zone. How far north did you go? I don't know, she said, weeping. I've been trying to. They're gone. My team's gone. Ren listened carefully. The voice said, Is there any sign of a cave or a crevasse in the area? Ren blinked. What? We've been monitoring seismic anomalies. Small but consistent. Like something moving under the permafrost. Moving? Like it's breathing. Ren's throat went dry. We're sending a team, the voice said. Stay in the tower. Do not go underground. Do not follow voices. Do not accept anything that looks like help. You understand? Ren nodded, then realized they couldn't see her. Yes, she whispered. I understand. The radio clicked off. She sat back, still shaking. But there was a glimmer now, a thread of hope. Not rescue yet, but contact. She was still herself. Not empty, not yet. Outside, the wind howled louder, but inside her, something burned again. Not warmth, but resolve. Part 7. The shape that walks like hope. Dawn never came. The world outside the tower remained locked in twilight. Not night, not day, just a dim, faded gray. The trees swayed without wind. The snow had stopped falling, but it didn't matter. Everything was already buried. Ren hadn't moved from her post beside the radio in hours. She watched the window, waited for movement, for salvation. Her fingers traced the broken flare gun. One round left. The voice on the radio had been real. Had to be. The warning, the seismic movement, the urgency, none of it had the hollow's cadence. It didn't whisper. It commanded. Don't follow voices. Don't accept anything that looks like help. She repeated those words like a mantra. The sound came just after what might have been noon. A mechanical whir followed by a high-pitched beep. Then voices. Human ones. Towers just ahead. Looks like the signal's holding steady. Footsteps in snow. Crunching. Heavy. Real. Ren stood and stared through the window, heart hammering. Two figures in red parkas moved through the trees, carrying rifles and gear. One of them looked up. Visual confirmed, he shouted into a shoulder mic, one survivor. Female. Mobile. We're going in. Ren backed away from the window. Felt wrong. Too easy. Too late. But then again, wasn't this what she wanted? Wasn't this the point? To survive? 3 sharp knocks on the door. Real ones. Wood on wood. Ren Monroe? A man's voice called. We're with search and recovery out of Fairbanks. Your signal came through last night. We tracked it here. Silence. We need to confirm your status and get you warm. We have medics on standby. She stepped toward the door, then stopped. Say the word, she called. The one from the broadcast. The warning. Pause. Then, you mean the seismic activity? No, she said. The phrase, the warning they gave me. Another pause. Then the second voice, female, calm, clinical, replied, don't go underground. Don't follow voices. Don't trust what looks like help. Rin sagged with relief. Her hand found the latch. She opened the door. The two rescuers stepped inside slowly. The man looked early 30s, face weathered, eyes alert. He carried a satellite beacon and a medical pack. The woman had a scar across her chin and a heavy thermal rifle slung across her back. Neither of them smiled. They shut the door behind them. The woman spoke first. How long have you been alone? Rin swallowed. I don't know. Days, a week, maybe more. Your team? The man asked. Gone. All gone. Taken? The woman said quietly. Rin nodded. The man exhaled. We've been getting reports. Things in the snow. No bodies. Just emptiness. Like they were never there. He glanced around the tower. Have you seen it? Rin's throat went dry. Not its true form. The woman stepped forward. What about reflections? Rin blinked. Reflections. That's where it's weakest, the woman said. It hates to be seen as it truly is. She opened her pack and pulled out a mirror, small, circular, like a makeup compact, and handed it to Rin. Keep this on you. If you doubt someone, use it. Rin clutched it tight. Finally, something solid. Something to fight back. They didn't stay long. There's a transport unit 20 minutes out, the man said. But we need to clear the path ahead. We go first, you follow. Follow our steps exactly, the woman added. Don't stray. Don't look behind you. If you hear anything calling your name, keep walking. Rin nodded. They opened the door, stepped out into the snow. Rin followed. The forest looked different. The trees taller, thinner, twisting slightly as if leaning in to watch. The snow was smooth again, untouched, but their boots left no prints. Rin stopped. Wait, she called. They turned. Your tracks. The man looked down. What about them? There aren't any. The woman smiled gently. That's because we're already inside. Ren's heart sank. The woman took a step forward. Her face melted slightly, not physically, but like wax under thought. Her features rippled, shifted. The scar vanished. Her eyes turned yellow. Your hope, she whispered, was the last piece I needed. The man's mouth stretched wide. Teeth too many. Gums too red. You should have stayed in the tower, he said. Rin screamed. She fired the last flare. The red light engulfed the clearing. The air screeched like metal bending. The shapes twisted, howling, their bodies unraveling like fabric in a storm. Faces flickered through them. Sadie, Nicole, her mother, herself, all sewn together into something formless. She ran, back through the trees, back toward the tower. But the path had changed. Snow melted under her steps, revealing flesh-colored ice. Not pink, not bloodied, flesh. The ground beneath was no longer snow. It was skin, pale, breathing. The forest groaned, like ribs cracking in the cold. She stumbled, fall, landed face first. The snow whispered, "Stay." She crawled, not toward the tower. It was gone now. Only trees remained, and somewhere beneath her, a heartbeat. Slow, massive, ancient. She pulled the mirror from her coat, held it up, and stared. The reflection showed a cabin, not a tower. The fire burning. Sadie and Marshall and Nicole, all alive, sitting around the hearth. They waved at her, smiling, and Rin felt something crack in her chest. Warmth, home, safety. She almost believed it, Almost. Then she tilted the mirror slightly and saw herself standing in the cabin with them, and another herself crawling in the snow, and another sleeping in the tower, and another skinless screaming inside the walls. They were all Ren, and none of them were real. The hollow didn't kill its prey. It multiplied them, fractured them into stories it could wear. She dropped the mirror, shattered, and in the shards only snow, only cold, only her. One version left. Ren stood, shivering, breathing hard. "I'm not yours," she whispered. Not to the trees, not to the snow, not even to herself, to it. And for the first time the forest went quiet. No wind, no humming, no movement, as if waiting. Ren turned her back to it all and began to walk through the flesh snow, through the bone trees, toward nothing, toward whatever might still be real. Part 8. No one leaves whole. Ren walked. She didn't know how long. The trees blurred. The sky never changed. Snow gave way to soft, pulsing earth, and then back to snow again. Her boots cracked open, soaked in something that wasn't quite water. Her fingers ached like they belonged to someone else, but still she walked. Each step was a refusal, each breath a protest, each blink another chance to forget, but she didn't. She wouldn't. Eventually the woods thinned. She came to a clearing where the snow fell in spirals, never touching the ground. It hovered midair, turning in slow, unnatural loops, as if gravity had been rewritten. At the center stood a monolith, black, tall, angular. It pulsed with the faint sound of a heartbeat, not mechanical, not human, but familiar. Ren approached. She had no reason to, no map, no hope, just instinct. The surface of the monolith rippled as she neared, like ink under skin. Reflections danced across it, versions of herself, some crying, some smiling, some dead. She reached out and touched it, and the world disappeared. She was back in the cabin, fire roaring, everyone alive. Nicole sharpening sticks into spears, Marshall boiling water, Sadie humming to herself while tending a small stew pot. It was perfect, too perfect. Ren turned slowly. Vince sat in the corner, smiling at her. "Hey," he said, "you made it." She didn't answer. She reached into her pocket. No flare gun, no mirror, only a folded scrap of paper. She opened it. "You are already inside." She blinked. Vince stood up. "Come on," he said, holding out his hand. "It's over." Behind him, the walls of the cabin breathed. Ren stepped back. "No, don't do this again," Vince said, voice suddenly hard. "Don't run. Just be still. Let go." She stared at him. "Where's the real Vince?" He didn't answer. So she asked again, louder, "Where's Vince?" His eyes twitched, and in that moment he collapsed inward, skin folding, bones snapping, not like transformation, but like a suit being turned inside out. A hollow shape crumpling to the floor. The fire blinked out. Sadie and Marshall turned to ash. Nicole melted like wax in sunlight. The cabin split at the seams, wood sloughing off like shed bark. And beneath it all, the hollow, towering, faceless, built from hundreds of borrowed bodies, stitched together with memory and grief. It opened its mouth, not to roar, but to whisper, "You can go now." Ren blinked. "What?" "You did not surrender. You are not useful to me. You can go." She stared at the thing. His body pulsed. 1,000 eyes opened and closed across its chest. Some were hers. Some were Crane's. One looked like her mother's. "Why?" she asked. "You will carry me," it said simply. "Out there." It pointed beyond the cabin's ruin, toward a pale line of light far on the horizon. Civilization. Help. Salvation. If I can't wear you, it continued, then I will live inside your story. Ren trembled. You want me to tell people about you? The hollow rippled. Its voice was inside her head now. They will think it fiction. And in fiction I grow stronger. The pieces clicked. It never needed to kill. It needed to be known. That was the hunger. Not for flesh, but for memory. Rin stood silent for a long time. Then she nodded. Okay, she whispered. You want me to carry the story? I will. The hollow tilted. Something like approval radiated from it. Then it stepped back, and the world snapped. She awoke in a hospital bed. Clean sheets, bandaged feet, for in her arm. A nurse stepped in, gasped, and ran to alert the staff. Within hours, men in suits came. Officials, psychologists, agents from three-letter agencies she didn't recognize. They asked questions. She gave them answers. Some true, most not. She told them about a snowstorm, a team-building trip gone wrong, people dying in the cold. She didn't mention the hollow, not directly, but she gave them symbols. A cabin, a heartbeat in the snow, a voice that sounded like you. They dismissed it as trauma-induced hallucination, her mind protecting itself. They were wrong, but also they were right. She was discharged 2 weeks later. She moved to Arizona, changed her name, started over. She didn't go outside much, didn't talk to people, but she wrote a lot. Not books, not articles. She just wrote the story over and over in journals, on napkins, on the backs of receipts, because the voice hadn't gone away. It waited, patient, grinning. She could feel it inside her thoughts like a second tongue. And sometimes when she passed a mirror, she wasn't sure which version was looking back. A year passed. Then one night, a knock on her door. She opened it. A young man stood there, thin, pale, holding a worn notebook. Are you Rin Monroe? He asked. She said nothing. He handed her the notebook. I found this in a thrift store, he said. It had your name in it. She flipped through it. Her handwriting. One phrase circled again and again. The hollow doesn't leave. It waits. She looked up. The man was gone. Only footprints in the dirt. Except they didn't sink.
And that was tonight's tale from the Shadowed Tales archive. If it left a mark on your mind, if the silence feels heavier now, then the story did what it was meant to do. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the darkness. New stories are always on their way. Until then, keep the lights low and the doors locked.